Today we're going to concentrate on the resources option within the Hippo menu. So I'm going to click on resources, and you can see there are 4 submenus: CPU, memory, data movement, and directories. I'm going to click on the first, which is CPU. As the screen refreshes, I'm going to take you through each of these charts on the screen. First of all, I'd like to let you know that the filters in Hippo all apply. So we can select a particular date and time range, or we could select just the previous month, previous week, and so on. I'm going to select the last 24 hours for my analysis. And when I do that, you see the refresh button flashes. I press refresh, and the data on the screen is refreshed. We can also add filters. We can add filters based on the projects that you've defined in Hippo, based upon the grids, nodes, hosts, domains, services, and repositories in your Informatica environment. So there's lots of options here to narrow down our focus on the use of CPU in your environment. Okay, let's look at the charts then. At the top we have the donut charts, which gives a CPU percentage breakdown by project. As I hover over each of the coloured areas of the chart, you can see the project and the percentage appear. All CPU usage which is not part of an existing project in your Hippo environment is aggregated into a group which we call others. You can see here that 62% of the overall usage is others. In the middle we have the CPU metrics, so basically a profile of the CPU that's available in your environment. And on the right hand side we have CPU breakdown by node. So if you have a number of nodes in your environment, then we can see how the CPU is being consumed by percentage across these nodes. Okay, let me scroll down, and the first thing that we have is scroll down here is CPU breakdown by project. If I click show legend, you can see all of the projects which are active here, and if you hover your mouse over each of the coloured parts of the bar here, you'll see for each of the sample times within Hippo, you can see the percentage of CPU which is being consumed by each of the projects that you've defined in your environment. We have percentage busy by node, and we only have one node in our environment, but this is phenomenally useful if you have a whole number of nodes in your environment and you can see at a glance whether load balancing is actually being successfully achieved across your environment, and if not, then obviously you can take remedial steps to address that. Let's scroll down here. We're going to look at top processes by CPU. So these are Informatica and non-Informatica processes, and this gives us the aggregate total of CPU minutes consumed by this process at the time of our sample here. So we have mentioned other already. We have Postgres, which is a database we use here. So 24 minutes of our CPU time has been consumed by Postgres. And we carry on down here. You can see that there are lots of processes which are non-Informatica processes. And then as we get down to the bottom, you can see some Informatica processes appearing there. Again, we have the donut chart. You can hover your mouse over and see the different percentage slices there. If I scroll down, we have sessions by CPU time. So this ranks the sessions which have run during their time frame by the amount of CPU seconds they've consumed. So we can see here that this execution of from the mortgage folder of the mortgage resync workflow and the session mortgage calc has consumed 92 seconds of CPU time. So this is our most expensive session which has run during the past 24 hours, and I can click on that session and I can drill down straight into it, and I can look at the metrics and the profile of that. You'll see on the left hand side that a new context specific menu has appeared called task, which has 5 options, and I can go through the various elements of this particular session execution and perhaps drill down into the reasons why the CPU consumption has been so large. So let me click back and go back to the resources section itself, and as I do that the screen just refreshes again. So below sessions by CPU time, we also have workflows by CPU time, where Hippo ranks all of the workflows which I've executed during the time frame that you've chosen for your analysis up here. So that covers CPU. Now I'm going to look at memory. Memory, we do the same thing, so we have the same analysis. We analyse cache size by project, we look at the overall memory available in the environment, and we look at memory free by node, so you have a feel for, again, how busy and how resource intensive are the individual nodes in your environment. Again, we have a percentage physical memory breakdown by project. So if I turn on the legend again, you can see that we have a profile for memory usage by each of these projects over the time frame that we've chosen for this analysis. We also have physical memory used by node. So again, if you have a number of nodes in your environment, this can be very interesting in terms of how hard these individual nodes in your environment are working. Then we have processes which are ranked by memory used. Just like the CPU processes, this includes Informatica and non-Informatica processes. So you can see that there are lots of processes in our box which are ranked much higher than the actual Informatica processes that the box is dedicated to, such as Oracle, Postgres and so on. And then as we scroll down the screen here, we'll see we have tasks ranked by memory used and workflows ranked by memory used. So again, I can click on one of these individual tasks and I can drill down into the detail of it. And again, the task specific menu appears on the left hand side. I can do the same thing with workflows. So let me select one of the workflows. Maybe I'm concerned that small delay 60 is actually consuming quite a lot of memory. So I can click on that workflow, and this time we have a workflow context specific menu which appears here, which gives us this individual execution profile, workflow trends and also history. So for this individual execution profile, we get a breakdown of the tasks inside the workflow, we get the workflow CPU time and the workflow CPU usage. You can see it's fairly constant at around 72. So that covers the memory side of resources. Let's look at data movement. For data movement, we take again the same overall view of activity. We analyse it by project, as you can see here. We analyse the overall data movement in our environment. And we look at rows written by project. So we have megabytes by project and numbers of rows written. And then we break this further down into data read and data written, because here we've only really have 3 projects which have any data movement statistics available for them during this time frame. We can look at data read and written by node, so again you have an idea of just how balanced your environment is. And we can look at source rows by project, and we can look at target rows by project. So really it's a very in-depth analysis of which projects are moving which amounts of data in your environment, which are busiest, which are processing most source, writing most target rows and so on. And then we go down into the same ranking as before, ranking sessions by rows processed and ranking workflows by rows processed. So these are the sessions and workflows which over the time frame that you've chosen for this analysis are doing most work in your environment. Again, you can drill straight down from within data movement and go into a deep dive into the statistics for the individual session executions. So finally, the final final option which is available within the resources menu here is directories. Directories is Hippo's way of profiling exactly what is going on in the file systems in your environment. You decide which file systems you'd like Hippo to monitor, and Hippo will monitor the file systems, subdirectories, their current size, maximum size and average size, and it will profile the file system size over time, so you can get a feel for just what's going on there, whether you have unexpected peaks or troughs in resource usage. We know that many of the customers who use Hippo have issues around file system usage, and that's why we have invented this particular chart as a way of allowing you to very quickly narrow in on what is going on in terms of file system usage in your environment. So that wraps up this short introduction to the resources section within Hippo. Hope you found it useful, and I look forward to covering vital signs in the next chapter of these videos. Thank you.